You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hey there, Days of Our Lives fans. It is Belinda from Soap Dirt. I want to talk to you about what Jen Lilley said, that Days of Our Lives did the worst thing to the recast Theresa Donovan actress, and I want to know what you guys think. So last week on Days, we got just a glimpse of Emily O'Brien as recast Theresa Donovan. And then on Monday, we got a whole lot more of her, a full episode. So to my mind, a lot of fan reaction that I saw after Friday's episode and over the weekend was kind of unfairly harsh, given that we didn't even really get to see her say much or hear the British actress's American accent. But now that we've had a full episode under our belts, I'm actually seeing a much better reaction from fans. However, Jen Lilley chimed in and said Days did a terrible thing to her replacement. I'm going to tell you what Jen said and what the soap allegedly did to Emily Bryan that has the other actresses' ire up. We're going to talk about it, but if you haven't already, please reach down, click subscribe so you don't miss any of our Days updates. So if you don't know, the whole way this Theresa Donovan comeback thing began was actually at the request of Jen Lilley herself. After John Aniston died in late 2022, she reached out to Days of Our Lives about whether they would let Theresa Donovan come and be part of the farewell to Victor Kiriakis. She said, quote, "It would make sense for Theresa, and it would also make sense for Jen Lilley to honor John Aniston." So in particular, it was now fired producer, the very problematic Albert Alar, that Jen Lilley talked to about a potential return. He reportedly told her that Theresa coming back was a, quote, great idea, and that she should reach out to him in early 2023 to discuss it once they were in the stage where they would be planning the tribute and Victor's exit. So as he asked, Jen followed up, and Albert Alar reportedly told her they wanted to shoot a 12-week arc. But she said she couldn't do more than 3 weeks on the Days set because of other commitments. She said her agent said, we really doubt that Days has really written 12 weeks of material because that's just kind of rare when they bring people back for guest arcs, that it's a lot shorter than that. And her reps told Days she can't do 12 weeks. And then the soap came back and said, okay, we want Theresa back. We want Jen in the role. But, you know, either way, Donovan's coming back. So she also told them she totally understood if they needed to recast because she wasn't available. So then Jen Lilley didn't hear back from them right away. So she thought, okay, they're going to recast. And she says she cried a little bit about it because she wanted to be there to say goodbye to John Aniston. But then she hears from them. And she said they asked her to come back to work for 3 weeks. And then she says, you know what, I can actually do 4 weeks because my, things have changed. So Jen says they told her they were going to squeeze 12 weeks of episodes into 4 weeks of taping. I mean, Days already shoots at such a rapid pace that seems feasible. She said she talked to Albert Alar a lot about what Theresa would be doing on her return, and she was really excited. All this we knew some of this, and then more came out in this recent interview that Jen Lilley did with People. And she said that on her first day back on the set, she met Emily O'Brien, the woman who's replaced her. She said they were standing in line to get a COVID test. And she says at that point, Jen didn't know it, but Emily already knew that she was going to be replacing her, but she wasn't allowed to say anything. I mean, how horrible, how awkward, right? Jen says nobody else knew at that point other than Emily and the powers that be at Days. And then, of course, she runs right into her in line. So then Jen Lilley says she wasn't getting the quantity of scripts she was expecting for her 3rd week of taping, so she went to ask. And she was getting the runaround from people in the casting department, and she was just like, I'm not going to do this. So she went straight to Albert Alar and asked him outright what is going on. She says the now fired director-producer told her, we've decided to use another actress. It sounds to me almost like they weren't even going to tell her. I mean, how awful. They just stopped giving her scripts, and that's how she finds out if she hadn't gone to confront them. Ugh. So she asked who was replacing her, and that's when she found out it was Emily O'Brien. So here's where things get weirder. As you know, Theresa Donovan has been a brunette, as is Emily O'Brien. Meanwhile, Jen Lilley has her hair pretty blonde. She volunteered to dye her hair dark when she came back for this 12-week arc, but they told her no. She said they asked her actually to go blonder, which she found very odd, but she did it. And then she said Albert Alar told her, we're just going to throw a wig onto Emily O'Brien. And Jen says they told her they decided to recast at about the same time she showed up for day one of filming, the same day she met Emily, who already knew it was happening. Jen said when she left Alar's office, she immediately went to find Emily O'Brien, gave her a big hug, and comforted her, telling her she knew it must have been really awkward knowing, what was happening when she met and knowing she couldn't say anything. Jen Lilley offered Emily O'Brien her phone number in case she had any questions and said she was going to champion fans to accept her as a recast because Jen's been through it when she was a recast over on General Hospital and said fans were awful to her. She said she told Emily, quote, "Fans will wreck you over the fact that you're a recast." And I will say, I do believe all this because Jen Lilley was, without saying Emily O'Brien's name because she wasn't allowed to say it, she said, "I want you guys to be nice to the recast. I want you to welcome her. She's in a really tough spot." I remember all this going on when we had heard it was going to be Emily, but it hadn't been 100% confirmed by the network yet. So she says that Albert Alar later left her a voicemail saying that Emily was only going to be doing the 12-week arc and wouldn't be playing Theresa long term because they weren't going to be keeping Theresa around. So it looks like we are going to have about 8 more weeks of Theresa. So it's going to run through November sweeps, maybe into December by a little bit. So Jen Lilley said that what Days of Our Lives did to Emily O'Brien was, quote, not cool, and said her recast, quote, drew the shortest straw. Jen said, quote, "It's the worst thing you could possibly do to a recast is to be like, we're going to wig you and make you just walk through fire for 8 weeks. So she says she doesn't know if they did the recast because of budgets or scheduling constraints, adding that she just doesn't know their reasoning and called it befuddling. So the big question is, how do you think she's doing now that you've seen Emily O'Brien in a whole entire episode as Theresa Donovan? I mean, certainly the look is drastically different than we've seen her as Gwen. And I've seen a lot of people griping about the wig on Soap social media, but it's not that bad. I mean, I've seen a lot worse wigs. I have. So in addition to me thinking she's doing a pretty good job with it, honestly, Emily O'Brien is very talented. I wanted to share some fan tweets with you. One of my favorite snarky soap tweeters, Alan Serapa, said, "Emily O'Brien should have been playing Theresa from the start. Thank God she's no longer playing that dud," talking about Gwen. "I hated seeing an actress I actually like in a shitty role." Not going to say that word that out loud. Another Days fan said, "So after seeing Emily's first full day as Theresa, I must say I like what I'm seeing so far. Definitely different hearing Emily with her American accent, but I think she's going to do well as Theresa. Looking forward to Emily's version of Theresa." Someone joked that seeing the airport swap of Emily from Gwen to Theresa reminded her of the Jack swap in 1997. Another said that Jen was treated badly by the fired guy, no doubt, but the show also wants Theresa full-time and JL isn't available and Emily O'Brien is. It's a tough business and every actor knows that. End of story. Another fan said, "Aside from the wig and thinking that EOB is a tiny bit too tall, I think she did great as Theresa. I wonder if JL gave her some tips because some of EOB's movements and the way she said some of her lines, it sounded like JL would sound as Theresa." And here's a comment from someone who changed their mind once they saw her in action. They said, Apologies for ragging on the ridiculous idea before watching Emily O'Brien excellently pull off this Theresa switch. I know she's a great actress, and armed with a fantastic wig, an American accent, Emily O'Brien became Theresa. So here's one last one I'd like to share. They said, I think once I get past the weirdness of the way it was done, and maybe the bad wig, I'll be fine with EOB as Theresa. She's a pro, showing up and doing the work. Any problems are not on her. And the bottom line is, guys, whether you like this recast or not, Emily O'Brien is the Theresa we have now. I think she did a pretty good job. I mean, I'm still seeing Gwen when I look at her to some extent because Emily has such a distinctive look. But I think the longer that Gwen is gone, the more it'll sink into my brain that's Theresa Donovan, not Gwen. So this top-notch American accent also helps, as does the drastic change in clothing style, mannerisms, and that blonde toupee they've put on her head. So of note is that when they added the flashbacks on Monday's episode, you know, they redid the whole briefcase scene in Greece with Emily in the role instead of Jen. After I saw that, I am even more convinced than ever that Theresa tampered with that letter that the baby mama wrote to Victor. I did a standalone video, I think last week or week before, of why and how Theresa rewrote the letter to screw Xander out of the inheritance. You can see it on our Days playlist, or you can just scroll down our list of videos and you'll see it there. Most fans I see are now seeing what I was seeing, that Alexander Kiriakis, the name that both Alex and Xander have had since birth, is a bait and switch. And before Theresa's run is done, she's going to be outed as trying to screw Xander out of his birthright and royally messing up Alex and Justin's life. But that's typical Theresa, right? Let me know what you think of Emily O'Brien as Theresa. Drop your comments below. Click a like if you enjoyed this conversation, and definitely click subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for coming here and listening to us talk days every day. This has been Belinda from Soap Dirt.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.